Mr. Radio Free Mormon, how are you?
Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. It's a beautiful Friday night, December 6th, 2024. And you and I are sitting here for another episode of Mormonism After Dark. Your thoughts? Love the scarf, by the way. Very festive, very Christmassy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit warm. It'll get warmer as the show progresses. No guarantee it'll stay on for the whole show. But thank you. Yeah, it's really nice. I like this. So what's on my mind right now is Wicked. I went and saw it Thursday or yesterday.
Yeah.
Absolutely blown away. The acting was incredible. The singing was incredible. The dancing, incredible. Choreography, incredible.
Yeah.
Sets, costumes, everything. There was a ton of money in that movie, and they put it all up there on the screen. So cannot recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, I saw the show live in Vegas, and I'm really excited to see the movie. It looks phenomenal. And I really appreciated the play. And so I hope that I get a chance here pretty soon to take it in. So that's really cool. What do you think about like the message of the story and how sometimes we see a person and we sort of make assumptions about what they are, and then once we sort of know how they got there, like what's the backstory? Like everybody has a backstory. And sometimes that fills in the gaps of why people are different or do things the way they do things.
Well, I'll tell you, Cynthia Erivo, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, who plays Elphaba, the Wicked Witch to become.
Yeah.
Is so incredible. I've seen her in things before, and I've never seen, she's getting better and better is what I'm trying to say. And she was so good in this role. I could see her easily getting an Oscar nomination.
Yeah. That's impressive. I mean, it's a cool concept, and it sounds like it was done super, super well. So I'm really glad that you loved it.
Oh, I did. Absolutely. And you know, the big song from Frozen, the big message is, of course, the same in Frozen as it is in Wicked. You've seen both, right, Bill?
I've seen Frozen and I've seen Wicked.
So yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
In general terms, overarching terms, in so much that you have the same song in Frozen, which is Let It Go, which pairs up with Defying Gravity in Wicked, and which kind of ends out the movie because it's only part one. They took a 2.5 hour Broadway show and made it into a 3-hour movie, which is only part one, and there's going to be more. But I got to say, that 3 hours went by. Whew. If you'd asked me afterward and I didn't get to check my watch, I would have said 2 hours at the most. That's how enjoyable it was.
Yeah, that's quite impressive. I mean, that comes as a high recommendation. And so folks, I hope that you are appreciative of that, because I think it's such a great thing to sort of have some feedback from somebody who enjoyed it that much and to now know like it's just a must see. You got to see it. You have to see it.
Ariana Grande, she's some kind of pop singer and not my generation. Is that right?
Yep. She's from the younger generation than me. It would be like even like my kids are a little younger than my kids even.
She sings pop songs, right?
Yeah.
So she's famous. So I don't know her. So she's in this movie, and I sort of have this basic understanding this is a pop star who's going to be in this movie.
Yeah.
No, she has an incredible voice. And by that, I don't mean an incredible pop voice. I mean, she has an incredible voice.
Yeah.
Musical theater voice, bordering on operatic voice. She's amazing. And she acts incredible. She's like Cher, who was a singer, went into acting, and all of a sudden floored everybody with her ability. Yeah. I think that's what Ariana Grande has too.
Yeah. Yeah, phenomenal. So folks, go see it. Go see Wicked. Sounds great, Arfim. I know that I'll be seeing it. So in terms of like phenomenal, you've got your part 3 of your conversation with Kobe Reddish going. I need to walk away for 2 seconds, grab a phone, but I wanted to give you a second to tell the audience a little bit about your episode that's coming out tomorrow night.
Okay, give me the spotlight.
Yep. It's yours.
Oh, okay. I meant just me. No, not you.
I got you like this.
Not you, me. Thank you. Yes.
Ta-da.
Let me know when you get back, okay?
I'll be right back.
Don't hurry.
You hog it up. I know, because this is what you love.
Don't hurry. So Colby Reddish and I, backing up just a little bit, there's this thing out there, and it's called the Light and Truth Letter. And it is a Mormon apologetic response to the CES letter. So it is defending the church. It is trying to counter arguments against the church and at the same time promote evidence for the church. And by the church, I mean the church and the Book of Mormon, all those things related to Mormonism. And that's the whole point of it. So this is relatively new on the scene. This thing called the Light and Truth Letter. It's actually a book. It's available online. You can find it there. August of 2024 is apparently when it came out. That's the date on it, on the electronic copy. So it's only been out for a few months. And it's making a bit of a stir. A lot of people are being handed this book by relatives, well-meaning friends, perhaps, with hopes that it will help a person with doubts or who's headed out of the church to turn around, realize the error of his or her ways, and come back to church. Okay? So what Colby Reddish and I are doing is we're going through this book, this letter, this Light and Truth Letter, chapter by chapter, and talking about the different arguments that are brought up in this book for the church and showing why those are, on the whole, not persuasive, contrary to the evidence, and often cherry-picked from the evidence. And we show this over and over and over again. This is going to be a long-term project. There's quite a few chapters in this book. But we recorded this morning, chapter 3, which has to do with, can you believe I'm just getting to this point right now, Bill? You've been gone so long. I'm just getting to the point you told me to talk about.
I know where I jumped back on and listened, though. I was behind the scenes that I think you're telling the story great. So I'd say keep going.
I'm just glad you're back.
You're nailing it.
No, so we recorded this morning. The first time we recorded for chapter 1, it was I think it was 2 hours. And I told Colby afterward, we can't do this. We have to shorten this up some. And so the next time on chapter 2, it was, I think, 3 hours. And no, that's we're going the wrong way, Colby. He agreed. And so today was like over 4 hours. It was almost 4.5 hours. But the reason why is because we are digging deep. We're doing the research that this person either doesn't know about or isn't telling you about. Either way, he's not telling you about it, whether he knows it or not. Yeah. So we're doing the research showing why these conclusory statements that he makes, which sound really golden and wonderful for the Book of Mormon, when you look behind it to the research underneath it, it doesn't stand for that proposition. Okay, that's the main thing. It's very bad science. It's actually not even science. One of the people who was a non-LDS person who wrote a review of one of these books that is cited in the Light and Truth Letter said it's actually pseudoscience.
Yeah. You made a good point. Like, it can be ignorant. Somebody can leave out things because they're just not as far along in their research, and they're still dealing with these issues at sort of a surface level. And there was a time where you and I dealt with some of these issues at sort of a surface level. So it sort of takes a certain amount of time before you figure out, like, oh, there's really a lot more to the Book of Abraham than this simple explanation somebody else has given me. And so one can genuinely be missing the mark without any fault of their own. They just don't have enough information yet. But there comes a point, right, where somebody knows enough that you sense that you're twisting the truth in order to present a faithful view. Yeah. And you have to wonder which one it is, don't you?
Yes, and I don't know. But the bottom line is, like I mentioned, somewhere in that 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's going up tomorrow evening, by the way, in all of its 4+ hour glory. the thing about what it is that I mentioned, I can't remember, but the thing about the reason why it's 4.5 hours, okay, is we bring the receipts and show why it is that what he's saying is not correct in the way that he's stating it.
Yeah.
And we go into a lot of principles, and this is important because it's one thing just to go bing, bing, bing with all the different little, arguments and try and check box them all. I think that's always a mistake. What we did was we picked a handful and we went deep on them, and we discovered principles that have effect on the other types of arguments as well. Because when you see how it's really done with some of these arguments, which are more religion driven, masquerading as a scientific paper than it is real science, once you see how it's done, then you can get the idea of how the others are done as well.
Yeah, and you look at a person who puts this sort of work together, like they're invested. Um, they're all in on trying to get others to believe their point of view, just like we are. And the difference is like you said, you show the receipts. You put explanations to things so that people can see your work. It's like back in math class when just getting the problem right wasn't enough. You had to be able to show your work. You had to show how you worked out the math and got to the right answer. And only one side seems willing to do that.
It's ironic you're making that analogy when the comment from Logan is on the screen.
Yeah.
Logan, who has a PhD in mathematics, by the way. I think that's true. Is it just a master's or is it a PhD? I think it's a PhD. And among the many dedications in that dissertation is one Radio Free Mormon, as I recall. Let us all know if that's true or if I'm just making that up. Okay, Logan? All right. So, that's nice. Thank you very much.
FYI, the phone lines are open 662-667-6667 or 662 Mormons. Look at that. Logan's sending a lot of love. How many scarves do you have?
Just a few. There's a black one, which I've worn last week, maybe.
Yeah.
There's this one, which comes out at only one certain time of year, and it's this time of year now. And I thought, I do wear it with just like a regular jacket, an outdoor jacket, a zip-up jacket. And but I thought, wow, how would this look like in a tux? And if you really need to know this, which you don't, I rotate the ties because I got 3 ties. I got the black, I got the white, and I got the powder blue. Well, it was powder blue's turn tonight. And I looked at powder blue and I looked at my scarf and I said, powder blue, you're going to have to take back seat in this rotation because the black bow tie is coming out.
Yeah. And it looks great, by the way. It looks phenomenal. You made an excellent decision to do that.
Thank you very much. I feel like singing some Christmas tunes by Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin.
Some of the Christmas songs were really unhealthy. When you think about the lyrics of Hey Baby, It's Cold Outside.
Classic song.
Oh, it's a song about, it's like a Me Too moment happening where he is constantly, she said no a dozen times and he just keeps pushing the envelope.
Where does that song first appear? Do you know?
Say what?
Do you know where that song first appears?
I have no idea.
What movie? Okay, I'm taking a stab at it, folks. I think it's Neptune's Daughter with and Ricardo Montalban sang it with who's the swimmer? Ethel? No. Esther Williams. Yes. Esther Williams. Thank you very much. I know that they sang that in there. Anyway, it was incredible when I saw that. This was not too long after my mission. It was on TV when TV was actually just TV and not a streaming service. But there he was, and Red Skelton was in the comedic couple in the same movie, and Betty Garrett was with him. But the lead couple, the romantic couple, Ricardo Montalban, and this is after, of course, I have really come to love him in his role as Khan in Star Trek II.
Yeah.
Not to mention, how crazy is it to see that when I know him from Fantasy Island on TV. That's as far back as I thought Ricardo Montalban ever went. And then to see he was just so dashing, and he could move, didn't do a lot of dancing, but he could move, and he sang.
Is that the one that had the plane boss? Was that
You mean Fantasy Island?
Yeah, was that what you?
Yeah, on TV. Yes, that's what I knew him from. Yeah.
Because there was Love Boat. I always confused the two because I didn't watch them. My parents watched a little bit of it. And I never knew which one was which, but it was like those two were sort of confusing to me as a little kid.
By the way, by my going off in one direction when you came in at this direction, I don't mean to imply that I think it's okay to badger a woman for sex.
Oh, yeah. No. Both things are true. Like, people love the tune of the song. People love it. And then until you think about it, and then it's a really unhealthy piece of music.
That's how I felt about Another One Bites the Dust. I really loved the song for a long time. And then I started thinking, this message might not be healthy.
Yeah. And so now listening to it, I can't help but whatever crowd I'm in, I sort of have the conversation it's a great time to have a conversation about, like, the message of that song is really not cool. I mean, we all love the song until we know what it's sort of about. And then you're like, shit, not a good message.
And when we know what it's about, let's bring this around to something Mormon related. And when we know what it's about, we ignore what it's about in order to enjoy the song. And there you have Mormonism and Mormon apologetics in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a part of you, even as you're having the conversation, there's a part of you that enjoys the music.
Bill, can I ask you something personal tonight?
By all means, please.
Do you have lipstick on?
I do not have lipstick on.
Okay,
I'm drinking a juice.
Is it grape juice?
It is blueberry, like pomegranate.
So, really? So that could account for it.
I think that might be causing something. So I'm unfortunately dealing with that. But we do have one call in the book, or in the call-in studio. But I wanted to at least show you. This is some of the comments. I love the folks who are enjoying the show. Ooh. Right here, this one here. So sorry.
Yeah, Logan, get out of here. We don't care what you have to say.
And there's people, laughing, people having a great time. So I love it.
Sorry, Logan.
Anyway, I was thinking too, one other thing I wanted to ask you. I'm talking to my friend in, like, the skin in between. We have these things we call crevices that are all over our body. All right. But they don't have a name. We just say, like, between the fingers, but it's not one finger or the other, right? It's just this other piece. I feel like in the medical field, it should be given a name. It should have a thing.
Like webbing?
Something, but it should be specific to that very part. So that one webbing should be distinguished from some other webbing. There should be a clinical name for that.
So this would be like the baby webbing.
It's something. Yeah, you'd call it like that, And, they wouldn't get to go to the market. You'd still stick with the fingers and the toes and those kinds of games, but it should have a name nonetheless. Anyway, that was just, I'll put that out to the audience. If anybody thinks that that should happen. I don't know.
Are you certain it doesn't have a name?
What do you call the place on the opposite side of your knee? Behind your knee. That doesn't count. That's just a direction in relationship to another part. That's not a name.
Well, could that be like the anti-knee?
Yeah, now if you called it the anti-knee, then I think you'd have a winner.
And for all I know, doctors do call it that. They must call it something. Otherwise, who knows where they're putting all those shots that are supposed to go in behind your knee?
Right. Yeah. There's just got to be a way to differentiate. And absolutely. Well, anyway, we've got a call. So I'm going to go to this.
Okay, great.
And hopefully.
You guys are the best.
Hey,
love your show.
Yes. Say that again. We didn't hear it the first time. Please say it again.
Oh, I'm just going to say, my wife and I, we watch you guys it seems like every night nowadays. But we love you guys. And I think you sold us seeing the movie Wicked tomorrow. But but I remember Heretic. We haven't seen Heretic either. So, do you guys have a preference between the two movies?
Well, I do. It's Wicked, hands down.
Lay it on me.
Wicked, baby.
Uh-huh.
It's not even close.
Excellent.
And I haven't seen the version that RFM has seen, but going off of just the play, I would say Wicked too. I would also say Wicked. So,
it also depends on what kind of mood you're in. If you just want to be entertained, it's Wicked all the way. If you're feeling like you really want to be thinking all the way through a movie, if that appeals to you, like people who like mysteries,
yeah,
then I think Heretic will be more up your line, depending on how you're feeling tomorrow.
yeah, and that's not to say that either movie is an inferior movie. Both movies are incredible for their own reasons.
Yes.
But Wicked.
Well, I am
just
a heterosexual man, so I was a bit concerned with the Wicked thing. I didn't know. It seems like it could be for kids, but you guys, I think you guys told me. I think we're gonna see Wicked tomorrow.
Sounds fantastic.
There's some scary stuff in there. I wouldn't take a kid if they were maybe under 6 or 8. But what are parents for if not to traumatize their children with scars that they'll take to their grave?
You can't. You're going to give a little bit of trauma to them no matter what.
Take them in there. Take them in there.
Hey, you guys, I got one other comment if you don't mind, or not comment, but perspective. My wife and I loved your episode last night about the German boy. What was it? Hibbert, who sacrificed himself, the LDS boy.
Yeah.
And I know RFM, I know he wasn't defending the church at all. He was defending aspects about, of course, the leaders were concerned for the members, and the members were concerned for their lives. The only thing is that perturbs a lot of us ex-Mos is that aren't you supposed to choose the right and let the consequence follow? I mean, one of the things that really broke my shelf when I was even a young kid is the whole story about polygamy. That here we were supposed to live the celestial law, the highest law, and to do what the Lord tells us to do. What? First Nephi says that explicitly, right? I will go and do the things that the Lord hath commanded, right? Because the Lord's going to prepare a way. And yet, as soon as the feds get involved, it was almost as if they're like, dude, like God comes and he visits Wilford Woodruff and says, basically, hey, man, the jig is up. These are the feds. Everybody run for cover, and that almost is that same feckless leadership that I have grown to disdain, in that, we have stories galore of, again, choose the right, let the consequence follow, do what the Lord would have you do, even if you lose your life. And how many times in the Bible, the Book of Mormon, are examples of people standing up against all odds or putting their lives on the line. And yet the church will talk a tough game and run for cover. And
they will, absolutely.
They should have. Yeah, go ahead.
They will, absolutely, they will. And the lack of faith that church leaders have in God as well as in the membership is stunning sometimes. On the other hand, I have to try and be honest and say that's one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, you get David Koresh and the people who get destroyed by the government because they don't back down. And a lot of times they take a ton of innocent people with them. So there's got to be something in the middle. There's got to be some happy medium there, right?
Yeah. Right. The thing I would say, though, is we're supposed to be the one true church. We're supposed to have a direct line to Almighty and his protective hand. And yet it's just interesting, and even in church history, how often the church got their butts kicked, getting run out of state by state by state. And you would think that if you're doing what the Lord commands you to do, or even if you do like the early Christians with the early day apostles, who so many of them died, in the Colosseum and so forth. At least they stood and they died for something. And in other words, and I like what you both were saying yesterday, is that, the church now says, oh yeah, we were strong. We kind of stood up to the Germans. They didn't like us. When in reality, they did what everybody else would presumably do, which is, run for cover, which
And
again
save your ass.
is understandable. Yeah.
Save your ass and run for cover.
Right. And I want to add
save
something.
your ass is run for cover. Yeah.
And by the way, if you're a family man, it's not just about you, it's about your family as well.
Right.
So there's all these impacts that you being taken out, and they could take out your family, and you being taken out of your family is going to have bad effects on your family. So yeah, it goes a lot of ways. And I don't, here's what I'm saying. I don't blame anybody for trying to keep their head down and not come to the attention of the Nazis.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a line, because, pressure's on everybody. And I don't know what that line is between, it probably varies with the circumstance, but between trying to be invisible and go along to get along versus stepping over that line and now positively, affirmatively taking actions to support the regime. So you can see why that's kind of a fuzzy line, but definitely on this side is one thing, and on the other side is the other.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sorry, Bill.
I just
want to say this one thing about God and saints getting their butts kicked. Yeah, Christians have a terrible record of that as well. Well, unless, they're backed by, I don't know, the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
It depends. But we'll just stick with Mormons at this point and the early Christians. The problem with God is that he's always late to the rumble.
Yeah. He's always reacting.
He just doesn't show up when the battle's going on, starting, and he's just always late. He can't help it.
Yeah.
It's a habit by this point.
And I think that's pretty much in the leadership DNA at this point. I think they tried to have the faith early days of Joseph Smith and standing up a few times, and I think they've realized it doesn't work in their favor. It doesn't seem to work in their favors, and I you can almost feel it, even how the church leadership talks to the members at conferences and so forth. You can almost feel the fear sometimes. They want to be accepted by the world so much. It's just kind of strange. It's kind of odd. I mean, they tried to play this game. One time, they're really hard on the members, almost like an abusive parent, but yet to the world, they always seem to, find a way to acquiesce. But I mean, this latest Fairview Temple thing is crazy too. All of a sudden, I don't know where the hell that came from, for them to all of a sudden unleash the way they have, with furor upon this small little community. That has blown my mind. How I would think Gordon B. Hinckley would be rolling in his grave, thinking about, there's no way he would have approved of something like this.
Yeah. I'll just say this, that Revelation, RFM said it. Like, I don't know if I don't know a lot, but I know that Revelation seems to always come in Mormonism at a moment where, from a rational point of view, it just seems like all the data came in and a change was necessary. You had to make a change. So every time your hand was sort of forced by a logical means to make that change. And if God just either does the irrational things that are the evidence against it, or he does the rational thing, which is just the way a logical mind would think, then you sort of aren't getting the revelations ahead of time. You're getting revelations when the ship is sinking if you don't make the change to fix it.
Yeah. A day late and a dollar short. That's when revelation shows up in the Mormon church.
Yeah. So thank you, caller. I'm gonna let this call go, but I appreciate the phone call, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head, RFM, but that's the whole crux of it. If you look at it, if Mormonism's best moves, or even its neutral moves, can be judged by data came in, said they had to make a change, so they made it. Well, that's not really evidence of revelation at all. It's just doing the rational thing in a crisis moment, and logic says that it's going to work out, or at least give you a better chance at getting somewhere.
Well, right. And this is why they can't do it. They get locked in their own tradition. And then there's a societal movement and upheaval, and there's a huge change in society. They can't do it then. They can't change it then because it would look suspicious as hell that we're getting a revelation right in the middle of this upheaval. So they wait 20 years until everybody's calling them every name under the sun. And,
Yeah.
football teams aren't playing with them. And then finally now they'll get a revelation so that they think they've waited long enough that nobody's going to make the connection. That's how they work.
Yeah. In a human world, that's just like if you take just one person making those kinds of decisions, that's just an unhealthy ego. From on a systemic level, that's just an unhealthy ego. It's unwilling to be accountable and say, you know what, I fucked up. I fucked up. We're doing this wrong. And you just wait till there's a better moment so you can save some face, so you can sort of shield yourself from some criticism. That's just an unhealthy ego. That the church is operating from that place intellectually. That's where it's at in the stages of development. That's where it's at in its ability to be vulnerable and honest about the things that it did wrong.
Well, those are the true intellectuals.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just so-called intellectuals. By the way, Colton Weaver, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, "Good soup, boys." Do you know what that means? Is that an expression that the kids use nowadays that I'm not hep to?
I think he's just eating it up. I think he thinks he's picking up what we're putting down. So,
oh wow, that's a current phrase. You guys are the best. Thanks, Colton Weaver. You're the best too.
Yeah,
we're all the best
something the
together.
younger generations are using. So,
don't pick up smoking either, Colton.
Yeah, Mormonism does its thing. And it's really fun sometimes. I'm going to go to the next caller here, but it's really fun sometimes that if you think about Mormonism's mechanisms on a psychological level, like you can see all the manipulation that happens in the way that it makes its decisions. And sometimes you and I are talking about the specific data points going on, but I think there's also a segment of the audience who it benefits them to sort of see the chaos and the rationale too. And I think it's something that you and I as a team do really well, which is explain the logic of an issue so that folks walk away going like, no, that they're right. Like it just doesn't add up. That's not what it equals. 1 + 1 = 2. It isn't 3. So anyway. All right. So caller,
what's the name over here? I need to put this up on the screen.
Hey, give us 1 second.
Anita says, RFM, you need a wooden pipe SAT.
Look at that, Anita. Anita wants you to have a wooden pipe.
I have a wooden pipe. It's just not here right now. I can't use all my props. I'd be juggling props all night. How distracting would that be?
Yeah.
But thank you so much. SAT. I don't know what SAT is. Isn't that like a college admissions test?
Yeah. In the ACT, right? Those are the two. I don't know why she went with that one.
I don't know. Maybe she meant STAT, like stat, like really quickly. You need to get it quickly and get into the operating room with that wooden pipe blazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you so much. All right, Josh, go ahead, my friend.
Oh, hey guys. It's me again, Josh Kim. I saw the video that what was it? That Kobe and Cultural Hall made about their response to Austin Fife.
And so on, yes.
All that, but
you mean last night?
It's like turtles all the way down, right?
Josh, the one they did last night?
Yeah.
I watched that too.
I saw that, and I was just like, it reminded me of something, and then I want to go on to my other point, but and you guys feel free to chime in. But it was like Mormons, it seems to be that their biggest gripe against Jeremy Runnels in the CES letter is that it's not fair that he gathered all the facts against the church in one place, because somehow that just loads the deck against the church, and that people are going to be overwhelmed and they're going to leave. And that seems to be Austin's contention there too. That's the feeling I got. Like Austin's contention is that Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say. I'm going to stop you and say something to that. If we all know, if we just agree that in psychology we all understand that the science says it takes a certain amount of evidence to convince somebody to let go of false beliefs that are central to their identity. Then if science says that people should have enough information to be overwhelmed, then there shouldn't be anything wrong with overwhelming them with the information.
Right.
2 cents.
Yeah, I agree. And also it's ironic because given your last live show where Jeremy J. Rubin Clark, what was it he said that the CES letter quoted, if you have the truth or whatever, I can't remember, but you know what I mean, right? If you have
the truth, you shouldn't be afraid of anything. You should let anything come at you.
Right.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Totally. The truth isn't afraid of anything.
Yeah.
So
If you don't have the truth, it should be harmed or something like that.
If you're the general of
it, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to find it, but I'll post in the chat. What was that?
Josh, this whole thing strikes me as a strange kind of argument, because if you have two armies that are facing off and one general has 3 platoons and he sends in all 3, right? And then the other side, they complain because he sent in 3 instead of only sending in 1. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah, it's not fair. Your team better prepared than I did. It's not fair.
Well, they brought a knife to a gunfight, didn't they?
Say that again.
Right. I'm sorry.
They brought a knife to a gunfight.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, poor multi-cent-billion dollar church. I'm sorry that I had better arguments than you. So sad. And on that topic, right? I don't know if this might be a little bit after your time because you guys came to the church when you're adults, but when I was growing up, right, I'm a little younger than Bill, like just a couple of years. But when I was growing up as a youth in the church, they had these Doctrine and Covenant storybooks for like animated, like kind of like comic panels for kids. But it wasn't like comics. They didn't have like speech bubbles or anything. But they had illustrations to accompany like parts of the Doctrine and Covenants, right, panel by panel.
Yeah. And
I seem to recall that it was like prophecies about the Jews, right? Because it was when they're talking about like, the future of like the Promised Land, the Holy Land, and I remember, and I could probably try and go to like order it off the church or like for cheap or like go to Desert Book, but when they talked about the Jews and Israel, it used pictures of World War II, like the Holocaust, images of like, modern tanks rolling and like, some poor, like damsel in distress. Like I'm guessing she was meant to be Jewish, but I just remember like it just like dawned on me as an adult of just how like it seems to be saying like, oh, this the Holocaust, World War II. 6 million Jews being wiped out. It had to have happened to the Jews because it's all in God's plan. I just find that really gross as an adult. I just the fact that they use that illustration. And I'm not saying like President Hinckley or like President Benson at the time were looking at every panel and illustration like, oh, okay, I want this in there. But I'm just saying like that's what Mormons thought. I mean, and I'm sure that's what Mormons think now. It just, and because you guys were talking about, Germans and Nazis and Mormonism, it just made me think about like when I was growing up as a Korean kid in Korea. I know Korea's been in the news a lot. Like the president declaring martial law. I remember as a kid, like a small child around 6 or 5. About to witness like a student demonstration in the streets because Korea in the late 80s was still under martial law, still under like a military government, and so every other president would probably be like a colonel or a general, right? That seized power, So that's what Korea was until like the 90s. So like when I was like maybe 5 or 4, my mom like took me shopping one day, or like out on errands, right? And I remember just like seeing police or maybe government troops in riot gear, right? And I innocently wandered into like the middle of the police, the phalanx, right? The square of police officers. And I was just innocently looking up at this like, this troop in helmet and shield. And my mom just grabbed my hand and just like dragged me away, right? And I could remember smelling tear gas. And on the other side of it were like these young kids, right? Couldn't have been more older than 19. And all they had was just their, like their slogans, their like bandanas, right? The headbands tied around their foreheads, with like slogans. And they were like about to fight for democracy. And I have to wonder what their church's stance was on this. And it's probably something really like, oh, we believe in being, like obeying the law, sustaining the law, or whatever. Just kind of inspired me to do some research. I'm gonna try to see what the church said and did. I'll probably have to question my parents and or people of their generation. They're like I contact them. I've met them last year. Yeah, go ahead.
That sounds like a really interesting project.
Yeah, it's okay. Let us let you go. We'll respond to a couple of things you said, and appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
My bad. I really went on a tangent tonight.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey, Josh, I want to say this to your face, okay? You're still there, right?
No, I hung up with them.
Oh, crap. Okay, well, I'll say it to your face this way, Josh. Josh, all I'm going to say is anybody who thinks that Joseph Smith could not have dictated the Book of Mormon has never met you. Okay. And I know it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And, and obviously, but it's like you never, met a period you liked. There was no commas. There was no periods. It was amazing. That was a tour de force.
He mentioned the episode we did on did the Latter-day Saint Church support Hitler? And I was, something he said and something the previous caller said as well. The church and anybody speaking on its behalf, not necessarily officially representing it, but whether you're Fair Mormon or whether you're the Deseret News, you can just tell the truth. Like, just tell people that this doesn't all look like magic happening. And sometimes these guys, sometimes they just go with the times. Sometimes they do this thing. Sometimes they made a mistake. We've goofed up. And that's what an honest person would do, is they talk about any of these issues.
Mm-hmm. And the leaders of the church, they feel they've painted themselves into a corner, and to a large extent they have, though not as much as they think they have.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand that people love fallible leaders.
Yeah.
They don't like perfect leaders. And I'm saying, even if we believe that their portrayal of being perfect were true, we don't like that. We certainly don't like it when they're not perfect and they pretend to be. That's a whole other issue, right? People love fallible leaders because we're fallible. We can't identify with an infallible leader.
Yeah.
This is why J. Golden Kimball was so beloved. Not because he swore and they thought that was funny, although he's pretty funny. It was because he was one of them. And he spoke like them. Yeah. And he used some rough words now and then, like them. He was human. They could identify with him. And we still can today when we read his words.
Yeah, there definitely is a way to tell the story and sway people and prevent people from ever thinking about like why it doesn't work. And I think whether it's what you just said or what I said before that, like the folks who listen to the things we talk about, they're getting the chance to hear why, like what's the logical thing they're not telling you, and what's the documentary pieces they're not showing you. And that makes all the difference, giving people the chance to sort of just see the homework done. And anyway, my 2 cents. I've got another caller here. So this is somebody wants to talk about the Light and Truth letter.
Oh, goody.
Caller, what's the name?
Hey, this is Paul. Appreciate the show, guys. I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring up a comment. And RFM, I've loved your analysis on this letter. I think it's interesting. I just wanted to make a comment about kind of like the potential motivation, because I just don't see anybody who has really sincerely gone down a real, what do you call it, the rabbit hole of the faith crisis would be able to be turned around by this. This seems like it has a different motivation for him writing it. I just don't see that it's even as in depth as like what Jim Bennett did in the response to the CES letter. It just feels, even though Jim, I think, missed some things on there as I've gone through and listened to your podcast with him, Bill, that you did a few years back.
Yeah.
I feel like he at least tried to hit on all the points where you could ask him.
You could ask him anything.
I may come on a different point with him. Yeah, you could ask him anything. I feel like at least his motivation wasn't like, I don't know. And I don't mean to, it's hard to get inside somebody's head, but I'm like, wow, he seems to be getting a lot of notoriety in the apologetic circles. But as I think I was watching Cult's and Colby Reddish's response to your, to Word Radio kind of going against your thing, RFM. I mean, it just made it think like, wow, this guy is only staying in very safe spaces. He's probably not willing to go anywhere where someone can really point by point, bullet point, poke holes in it. It's just interesting to me is what is his motivation? Has he really thought through this? Would somebody who's really gone down the faith crisis road come back? Anyway, I just wanted to hear your comments about it. Appreciate the show.
I think,
Thank you, guys.
yeah, you're welcome. I think the people who respond like Jim Bennett responds show a history of deeply changing in how they approach critical material. And who am I to know where they would be on those journeys? Where they're at is where they'll end up. But I know that people who think the way they do have changed from their original beliefs a lot. And I trust that the process works. And it seems, again, as just an outsider who observes those voices, Jim Bennett, Terrell Givens, Richard Bushman, it has made them much more empathetic and inclusive, even if they don't choose to at least publicly go all the way out and say how they really feel, right? They're still doing good by increasing empathy and inclusiveness in the church. They're creating places where people can change their mind about things and it's safe. That pretty much tells you what team they're on.
Yeah, the thing I've noticed,
that's how you measure it. That's okay.
The thing that I've noticed about Mormons is they're suckers for a guy with a book.
Yeah.
Mormons are suckers for a guy with a book. If he's written a book, damn, he must know his stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't take much, does it?
As much as it takes to write a book, I suppose.
Yeah.
Not an easy feat.
No.
And
but
yet,
general authorities do it every day.
yes.
Yes.
I just say that because I think they have a lot of help. But
yeah.
anyway, lots of people do it.
Yeah. Well, that's them. All right. So I've got another call here. Carrie, let me see what this is. Is this a name by the name Carrie? Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I would love to join the video portion.
Oh, well, I can
Can you
put
hear
the
me?
yeah, I can hear you. I'll put the invite down there. I'm so sorry.
No,
That's okay.
Mr. Bill. So would you, I don't know. So you got the link now at the StreamYard and
I've
everything?
got the link there in StreamYard.
Oh, good.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up and try there.
All right, sounds great. And
All right,
we'll
thank
take
you.
another call probably in
See you,
between that. But if
boys.
I see you show up, I'll take you right after that. Thank you.
Okie dokie.
Bye-bye. All
All
right.
right.
And actually, I don't have another call in there, so we'll just wait for her. Your episode, I mean, I know that you and Kobe are both aware that you're trying to shorten these, but it seems like the stuff you're including, there are important things to add in. They're the ways in which we decide there's a discrepancy here.
Here's the point. Colby and I've been doing this for longer than Colby. Of course, I've been doing most things longer than Colby.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is this, is that you have to have so much knowledge through so much study about Mormon apologetics to know the responses to the apologists
Yeah.
and why what they say, even if it has the appearance of making sense,
Yeah.
doesn't. And the average person simply does not have the time or inclination to do it. It takes a lot of time and a lot of study. And so
Yeah.
I've done it, and now I get to use it for good.
A lot of people trust the official voices for their team, and that's sufficient for them to dismiss the issue.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Rah, rah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Carrie is down there, so I'm going to add her to the show. Carrie, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. I dressed up, and this outfit is in honor of all three of you, you two, and then also Rebecca. So this is very flashy for Bill. It's very classy for RFM, and it has porn shoulders for Rebecca.
Rebecca, I hope you're watching. Thank you
cool.
so much. That's wonderful. That's why you had to be in the camera.
That's right.
You couldn't do this on the phone. This is a visual.
Yeah. That's super cool. What do you think of tonight's show, or what kind of things are ruminating in your mind?
Well, I've been wanting to call in for quite a while, but I wanted to dress up, so it took me some time to get that. But when you had the Mormon newscast and you were talking about physicians that were abusing women and dentists that were abusing patients and everything, and you were kind of wondering like how Mormonism influences medicine and and I was like, yes, it absolutely does. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I'm an advanced practice nurse. I have a doctorate. So I prescribe for patients, and I've seen all different physician relationships with nurses around the country, but in highly dense Mormon areas, they're basically, they already have a God complex coming into medicine. That's changing, but that's historical. And then they have a literal God complex. And so I've seen so many nurses not be able to stand up. I used to do a root cause analysis of reportable like medical mistakes. And a lot of times in Idaho and Oregon and those highly dense Mormon populations, it's the nurses not wanting to tell the bishop, who's also the OB or the surgeon, that you're doing this wrong or a step up, and then the patients get harmed. And so I have a ton of stories about that, but I just wanted to bring that conversation back because it's really important to me and get your thoughts. And then I have a story that happened today.
Oh, I want to hear that. I'm guessing that it's hard enough for a nurse to talk to a doctor, to correct the doctor in the first place, just because doctor and nurse. And then on top of that, if you overlay the church patriarchy, now it makes something that's doubly difficult to report.
It is. It definitely is. And then it goes also to patients, because LDS patients that come in, they don't get proper screenings all the times, which can affect. I did a lot of OB. If you don't screen patients for domestic abuse, illicit drug use, that could affect their baby when it's born. And I've seen lots of Mormon, not lots, but a significant number to me that I noticed, Mormon babies that go into withdrawals after they're born because the mom was taking something, but no one ever talked to her about it or anything, because she goes to Relief Society with them. So she would never, of course, be taking anything because she's a Mormon. So, yeah. So anyway,
Today
I went to a meeting of all of the department managers. So that's everybody from facilities to nursing. And I represent physician services, even though I'm a nurse. And we have a new administrator. And I usually can pick out Mormons right away, but I was busy doing my job, waiting for this meeting to start. And he came in. I hadn't met him before, and he saw me, and he was kind of like. Now that I think back, he was like a 23-year-old eldest quorum president, like layout handing people and like giving nucks. And I was like, "You're ridiculous. I'm just doing my stuff." And then he comes up, he's like, "Oh, you're new," and he shakes my hand, and I'm seated, and he's up above me. And I shake his hand. I'm like, "Hey, nice to meet you, but I'm only actually going to be here for a week. I'm not going to be at the site anymore. So nice to meet you for this week." And then he leans over me and pantomimes choking me. And he's like, "Argh." And he's not a physician. He's an administrator, but he went to
Oh, well, that explains it.
Pardon?
I said, oh, well, that explains it.
But I was like floored, but
Can
I
you
still
see my
didn't
jaws
pick
on
up.
the floor too? My jaw's on the floor too. Like my eyes are like this is
Can
a
you
problem.
imagine going up to a 5'4" woman in a lab coat? Like, obviously, I represent the providers, and just be like, within 6 seconds of meeting him, and then I was like, "I have a week. I'm not even gonna do anything," and I still hadn't really cued in on that he was Mormon yet. I was just like,
Oh, so he ends up being Mormon?
"Pardon?"
So he does end up being Mormon?
But I hadn't picked up on it yet. And then he is talking, and he's like inviting everybody. He's like, "We are not," because he's trying to change things up. Of course, he just got here. "We are not going to talk about each other behind our backs. When you have issues, I want to hear it in front of everyone."
Yeah.
So I raised
You
my
raised
hand.
your hand?
Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Well, I had an issue with you coming in and meeting me and then pantomiming, choking me. We just signed a policy about trauma-informed care. And then you did that." I'm like, "I don't think that when you met the physician who's male yesterday, you did that to him."
Mm-mm.
He would not let me talk. He interrupted me. He started gaslighting me.
Mm.
And then he stopped, and because it was getting kind of heated, he's like, "Oh, this is an adversarial relationship." That is when I knew he was Mormon.
Heard of the devil. Contention. Did he say contentious?
He was
No, I
gaslighting
shut it
so
down
bad.
after that. I was like, "I do have clinical things to discuss, but I'll catch up with the nurses." And I left the meeting, and I went on LinkedIn, and sure enough, BYU grad. And I was like, I knew it.
Oh my gosh. Well, he should have said, "I didn't mean about me." Do I have to spell everything out for you? I mean, if you have a problem with anybody else, not me.
It felt like he was gaslighting you so bad. Oh my goodness.
100% right away.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Congratulations on standing up to him
Yeah.
in front of everybody.
I've worked with physicians my whole career, and we get along because I'm strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that takes guts.
Thank
That's
you.
super cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for the phone call, and thank you for sharing that with us. It's good to sort of have these stories about how things happen out in the world, and we all know what unhealthy behavior is. We know it when we see it. And then certain folks try to sort of get away from it.
Mhm.
Carrie, have you written a book?
No one would say anything.
No. And by the way, thank you for your donation.
Have you written a book, Carrie?
Thank you.
I know. I was like, I curled my hair. I've got to get on.
Is this you?
Yeah.
It says, "Can you please open the video call-in tonight?"
Yes. Sorry, I
All
didn't see
dressed up with nowhere to go. It's like a
Good job.
snake is pronouncing that last word, tonight. Hey, you are all dressed up, but now you got someplace to go, and that someplace is Mormonism After Dark.
Yeah. Well, thank you. By the way, I appreciate it. Like, you went through so much trouble. You ended up picking up the phone, getting in through the phone line, and letting us know that you were out there. And I'm super sorry, but it worked out, and you look phenomenal. So thanks so much.
I had to
Thank you very
class it
much.
up. I appreciate our
Yeah.
lounge time every week.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for adding so much to the
thank
show
you.
tonight.
Thank you so much again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
And Carrie reminds me, where's are we missing the jazz music?
We are missing the jazz music.
You said lounge, and it's just like, where's the music?
Yeah. We've
The
got about
lounge
a half
music.
hour to go, so the band came a little late.
Yeah, they're not getting full pay. That's all I'm
No,
saying.
no, not at this point. It's only one guy. It's just a pianist.
See, Latter Daily Digest is saying, ask Carrie about her book. And I tried to put it up there, and then it was gone for the super chat. And, apparently she's written a book. Either that or Latter Daily Digest is having its on.
Yeah, I figure she'll be on again, I think. So, Carrie, feel free to call in again, and we'll ask you about the book and get your thoughts. So, all right, we've got
Matthew.
Matthew, how are you?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Excellent. Welcome
Hi, Matthew.
to Mormonism After
Thank
Dark.
you.
And then we got a few phone calls we'll get into, and then that should take us to the end, my friend.
Perfect. Well, I'll try and keep it quick. I don't want to keep the callers waiting.
No, we are here for you. This is your time.
Well, thank you.
This is your time to shine.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to bring up something. I attended church last week after not going for a little bit. My wife was teaching a lesson. It was her first lesson back after having our kid, so big deal. And I was just snooping around, not hanging out in a sacrament, and I saw in primary this image behind me. I took this photo.
Wait a second now. Are you lurking in the hallway?
I was hallway lurking, yeah.
And you're peeking into primary classes?
Yeah. I'm walking around with our
Can
son
you
though.
Hold the line for a second here. Okay, I've got
Geez, don't paint me this way. Hey.
I got police all over here, and we got the tracing equipment. It's going.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm now. Thank you. I now realize how
the
that
weird
sounds.
person doesn't tell the story. Keep going.
No, I should have prefaced. I'm walking around holding our son. I'm bouncing around, just walking the halls, and I'm walking through primary, and I see they have all these photos, like all these like cute little primary photos up, and I saw this one of the gold plates behind me, and I'm looking at the characters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they actually used the characters that from the characters document.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe this has already been talked about. I don't know. I haven't caught the most recent episodes, but I just was like, wow. It's funny to me how they've gone full circle from, when I grew up, they're showing these pictures that aren't true at all. They show Joseph, translating like gold plates. And then now they have this hanging up in nursery where they had this, and then they had one of Jesus, and he wasn't white Jesus, and he was hanging out with actual other people of color. I'm just sitting like, wow, okay. So the new generation is getting, I don't know what you want to call it, but it just stuck out to me. It was interesting to me.
Jesus has loosened up a lot in the past few decades.
The depictions of him are becoming more sort of collectively scholarly accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and then even thinking about like the depictions of him, I don't know if you guys saw that. It was some like church movie, not like from the church, but these guys made a movie about Captain Moroni, and it was the whole Lamanite versus Nephites, but they actually they cast all the Nephites as white actors.
Were you talking about the one about Moroni, the oath? The oath, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I was looking at the trailer, I'm like, did they really cast like a white actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the star. He's the producer. He's like Sylvester Stallone.
That was crazy when I saw that trailer.
Yeah, like there's still some Mormons out there who think that there were white Native Americans and there were dark Native Americans. Like they believe this story, even though the church is like, yeah, the DNA, we self-admit there's nothing there, and yet we still feel this confidence, don't we?
Yeah. Well, and I just bring all this up just to wrap things up, because it's so fascinating to me to see like the changes going on. Like, okay, they're little things. They're very little. I don't know if I'm sure you'll do an episode on the changes to the introduction to the Book of Mormon that they just put out. And they're so subtle and small, but like, it's just so fascinating to me because I'll talk to like family members. I'll talk to my wife about like issues that I have. I'm like, yeah, this really bothers me. And it doesn't bug them, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with it." And there's just this like disconnect of, yeah.
Matthew, how old are you?
I'm 27. I know I look a little young.
I was shocked when you were married and having kids. I figured you were like in 7th grade, but you're 27, right?
I'm 27.
I was thinking that was one hell of a smart 9th grader. I was like, this kid knows his shit. He's laying it out.
I appreciate it. Maybe one day I'll look old.
Like
all of that.
Hey, whoa, hey.
All of that. Just to ask you this question. Okay, you've been around a little bit, maybe halfway, maybe not around the block, maybe a halfway around the block, but you've been around a little bit, and I want to ask you, what is it about the change in the introduction to the Book of Mormon on the Book of Mormon app that gets you so upset?
I think the biggest thing for me, I wouldn't say upset. I just think that the thing that stuck out to me was they really stepped away from the witnesses, and that struck me as interesting because that was a big thing for me, like really getting into all the witnesses, and like they didn't even actually sign this. This is a highly edited version of their statements, and then many of them came out and like, oh well, that's my spiritual eyes. Like that was a big thing for me. So noticing that they stepped away from that, as well as this is the most correct book on earth, like they stepped away from that quote as well in the introduction. And so I just think they're subtle. I don't think a believing member would necessarily care if you pointed that out to them, but it's those little things where it's like, oh no, those little changes like over time really can eventually the narrative is just completely different. It's like, oh no, like there's better books than the Book of Mormon out there, and then suddenly I'm crazy, and then the new generation is like, oh no, what do you mean it's the most correct book on earth? And I'm sitting here feeling gaslit. So
you nailed it, because the apologists used to pick apart every issue and act like no, like there's this loophole and this piece of conjecture, and if you jump through this hoop.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have apologists standing up and saying the church is in a period of unlearning.
Mm-hmm.
It's agreeing that what you just laid out, it's sort of self-agreeing to, like, we did this baby step by baby step that was sort of defensible, but now we're on the back end, and we just have to come to the truth that so much has changed that we never thought would change.
Yeah.
That's the message.
Yeah. What made Mormonism exciting for me when I was young, which is before you were born, was the fact it was so specific. It made claims. It made real claims, not just pie in the sky theoretical claims that you couldn't prove one way or another. The Book of Mormon and Mormonism, with the Book of Mormon as its foundation, has definite claims about the Americas, about who was here, at least at some point.
About how to handshake an angel. Like it has answers to the specific things all over the place. Like, is that guy going to try to shake it or not? And if he does try to shake it, is there going to be something there or isn't there? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I still get into arguments.
Hang on a second. I'm going to forget my point. I'm sorry.
Okay,
hang on a second,
no, you're
Master.
fine. I'm sorry. I'm yapping.
Whippersnapper, and get off my lawn.
Okay. After I mow it, yeah.
Okay, now I got to think about what the heck the point was. I think the point was, what was I talking about?
Well, you're going to count on me to
remember. Come on. Between the two of you, you can reconstruct it.
Well, I don't.
Because you're talking about how growing up in Mormonism was different because
exciting,
it makes specific claims.
What I have seen, thank you so much, Matthew. It's that over the course of my membership in the church, which started in 1978, I have seen the church back away from falsifiable position, and they are trying to make Mormonism unfalsifiable. Now, falsifiable is just the flip side of the same coin as provable, right? Something's not, I'm going to say this as an axiom, and I hope I'm right. Something is provable, right? If something's provable, it's also disprovable.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I think that's true. So it's the same coin we're talking about. So you can't prove something without also having the possibility of it being disproven. And that's what made Mormonism exciting. All these different principles, concepts, ideas that they had that they said we could prove. And I read the Apologetics. I know over and over and over again, we can prove this, we can prove this, we can prove this. All of those have been taken off the table and put in the marble bag of the kid who's mad about the game because he's losing. And he's taking his marbles and he's going home. Because they're all falsifiable, and the church can't afford for any more of them to be falsified.
Ben Spackman is creating a church where anything goes. Anything could be defended. RFM, I think you make a great point. Like he's made the church unfalsifiable. That's the whole goal. That's what moving the goalpost. That's the end zone for the goalpost. If you think is to make all of Mormonism unfalsifiable.
Or the indistinguishable from fraud. The RFM likes to use that phrase. So, yeah.
It's like a kid who's playing, I don't know, some kind of game, if it's kickball or whatever, and he's standing outside of the field, right? and he's pretending that he's in the game when he's not even in the game. So I don't even know if that analogy makes any sense, but it's the best I got at this hour.
It's getting a little lost in the sauce, but that's okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for letting me on. Have a wonderful night.
Matthew, what kind of child? Is it boy child, girl child, what?
A boy.
And what's the name?
Atlas.
Nice.
Mhm.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Thank
What a
you.
great name. He's going to have a lot of
I like it.
bodybuilding to do to live up to that name.
Well, I wanted to name him Hercules, but my wife was like, "Nope, no way in hell." So settled
She
for
had to settle
Atlas.
for Atlas. I think she made the right call. I think
I do too.
Atlas will be happy about that as he grows
Yeah.
up.
Give him a set of
Yeah.
those gold plates. He'll be in tip-top shape in no time.
Oh
He's got
yeah.
his own gym.
He'll be running with them. He'll be
Yeah.
fighting people off and running with them. So
Yeah, watch out those teeth though. Sometimes you get a tooth chipped, or you end up with a gate in your walk. So gotta be careful. Or a finger broken.
yeah.
You take care,
Okay.
all right, Matthew? Give my best to your
gentlemen.
missus.
All right, we got 3 calls. Do you mind if we take these in one after the other?
Tim Rathbone says Dr. Julie Hanks needs our assistance. Tim is putting up the bat signal.
Yeah, I saw something late tonight. Did you see that, RFM?
No, I have not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Dr. Julie Hanks is asking for folks who are grateful for her work to turn in letters to her that she can then share with her leaders. So I have a fear that Dr. Julie Hanks might be dealing with some sort of worries about disciplinary action. And
Yeah, it's sort of the buzzards have been circling for a while now, I think.
yeah, it is weird. I mean, all systems have to have lines. Even healthy systems have to say, like, we can only go so far. You can't just do anything or be anything, because some things hurt people and you can't do that. But the stuff that she advocates for seems to be healthy perspectives on mental well-being, and that kind of stuff seems to really scare the church.
Anybody who doesn't agree with them and then does not bend the knee to them when corrected and told to, pisses them off and threatens them more than anything else in the world. And you can double that if it's a woman.
100%. I'm going to go to Gloria on the phone, but absolutely, like, the way they make decisions about who's approved and who's disapproved of, they often get rid of the people advocating for the most healthiest of ways of being, and that seems to really be a horrible thing for a system to do to sort of protect itself.
This is the dilemma that I face, Parley, where he says, I don't think a letter from Bill Reel will help Julie Hanks.
No, so I don't think it will either. But, RFM, you can put one in on my behalf, because you're still on the rolls. And so they still seem to be approving of the material you're putting out. So
maybe I don't know. I will see what I can do. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Apparently this is going on, and it may be imminent. If it's imminent, I'm guessing imminent would be Sunday, but I don't know about it. And Julie, I don't think, is in the live chat. Sometimes she is.
Yeah.
So she may be otherwise occupied. Otherwise, she could tell us more about it. But let's keep our ears open. By the way, hey, Bill.
Yeah.
We've got 3 more calls.
Yeah, I've got Gloria waiting. At least that's the name, I think. But Gloria, if you'll just mind holding another second here or two. But yes.
Yeah. Maybe I can look it up. Can you look it up? Because you're the...
What would you like me to look up?
What's going on with Julie Hanks? And
I just saw a Facebook post, and she didn't seem to be wanting to say more than that.
Okay.
So I don't...
All right. Well, she got a Facebook page, right?
Yeah, she
Check it
has
out at Facebook.
Yeah. And so I would just recommend people go there to share some support, to check out the notes, and to, if it feels like she's benefited your world in some way, because she says, like, if I've been of any help to you, write a letter on her behalf. And so that's really a cool thing. So I hope some of you, or a lot of you, will do that. So thank you. Gloria, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Gloria Love Shalom, and I live in Minnesota.
Okay.
But I have a testimony of being the prophet Joseph Smith. I was the prophet Joseph Smith, and that was the first restoration.
You were the prophet Joseph Smith.
And at the second restoration, I was the Christian apologist C.S. Lewis of Great Britain.
Man, now how would I know if what you're saying is true? Do you have a litmus test that I could follow so that I could know that your claims are? Facebook. Yeah, please.
That's what I'm telling you. It's a testimony. I have to. If I tell you the story, I even wrote a book. The book is on Amazon. It's called The Reincarnation of C.S. Lewis.
The Reincarnation of
I only
C.S.
wrote
Lewis.
about it because the reincarnation of C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, the reincarnation.
So I was Joseph Smith out of the first restoration. I was C.S. Lewis at the second restoration, and now I'm here for the final judgment because we are in the final judgment. Judgment started on December 24th, 1989 in Liberia, West Africa.
Is there any way I could
and so
send
the wars who are in it?
Is there any way I could send you like a poster, and if you could just autograph it in all of these reincarnations, then if I could get a certificate of authenticity, I'd love to see what I could fetch for these on eBay.
Gloria?
Long story. The church knows about this.
Yeah. Gloria.
Yeah.
Mr. Radio Free Mormon has a thought.
Oh, I was trying to look up The Resurrection of C.S. Lewis. Is that what you said the book was?
The reincarnation of C.S. Lewis.
Reincarnation, you said. Okay, let me try this, okay?
Yeah. If you put my name in there, if you put Gloria Love Shalom, you see it comes up.
Yeah.
Let me see here.
What do you think?
There you go. Gloria Shalom.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You wrote a book? That's impressive.
C.S. Lewis, that picture you see over there, that was me in 1919.
Really?
I was 21 years old. If you go to my church in Great Britain, you see my name on the wall, Gloria. I wrote it in Latin in 1929. I was 31 years old. My father died.
Yeah.
I wrote that on the wall.
Is that a picture of you
on the wall? Gloria in my church.
Yeah,
is that a picture of you on the cover with
my friends?
How many churches out there do you think have Gloria written on them?
Our talking now is in Minnesota. He a female. My friend Charles Williams a female. It's like all of my friends from Great Britain, we reincarnated in Africa as females.
Yeah.
That's why you see the U.S. government they are promoting this transgender. It's because they know all these secrets going on, these secret societies. They know all of these things, and they're keeping it like a top secret. And I don't have time for secret because people need to know the truth.
Gloria, I agree with you. People do need to know the truth. Are you a Mormon? Are you a member of the LDS Church?
I started the church. I was Joseph Smith. I said at the first restoration, I was the prophet Joseph Smith.
I role-played
Joseph Smith. I role-played the angel Morona.
Yeah.
I role-played Morona and Joseph Smith. Have you seen Coming to America? Eddie Murphy played like 4 different roles. I role-played those things because I knew I'm the only one that could have done it better.
Yeah.
I love that song, by the way.
I'm the only one. I told them.
Yeah.
This is James Brown. I love that song.
Gloria, if you'll hold on.
I was Joseph Smith.
Yeah. Hold on a moment. RFM, could you ask Gloria a question that only Joseph Smith might know, and RFM, who knows Mormon history really well? What do you think? If we asked, who was Joseph Smith?
Can I ask you this? Okay, here's what. Okay, I can do this. I would. Okay, you could ask. I don't know. What were your last words before you died?
What were your last words?
I got shot and killed. I got shot and killed in jail in Chicago. That's what I remember, getting shot. That was my testimony I took to the church.
Just
I got shot and I saw my soul leave my body.
Gives you that information, RFM. Which I bet all.
No, that's my testimony. Let me tell you, when the missionaries visited me, right? When the missionaries visited me, 2011, they took the message back to the bishop. They said, "Come and see a lady who hasn't been in our church, but she knows everything about the church."
Yeah.
So the bishops, they started investigating me. I was under investigation for almost 5-6 years. They were investigating me.
Why were they investigating you?
I had not been in the church.
Yeah.
They were investigating because when you go to the church, they call you an investigator. But I wasn't investigating the church. The church was investigating me because of the testimony that I carried. I was the prophet and I got shot and killed in jail.
Yeah. What was the watch you gave to Lucy Walker? Was that solid gold? The watch you gave to her? Was that?
I didn't get. Let me tell you, everything they said about me, the church history, majority of them are a bunch of lies. I didn't even have no 40 wives. They lied on me. They told those women to tell the people that I had all those wives so they could free me from jail. I didn't need them to lie to.
All right.
Do you know Michelle Stone? Because I think you two would get along really well.
You know, I'm telling you, this critical thinking thing isn't that difficult, RFM. If you just try, if you just set.
Gloria, thank you for calling. I'm glad you're watching our show. I have no idea under heaven why you're watching this show, but I'm glad you're watching the show, and I appreciate you, and I wish you the best.
Yes, and Merry Christmas. It's just around the corner, and so there we go.
And she has a birthday coming up.
Yeah. I felt like I was in the initial stages of an MLM campaign.
Okay. Pulling it together. We're on the home stretch. I can make it from here.
I hope none of you fell for that.
What do you mean fell for it? Is that your girlfriend?
You can go to her website.
Trolling us?
Yeah.
Your girlfriend was trolling us. You mean you're worried that somebody in the audience actually thought this was the reincarnated Joseph Smith?
All right.
This is like listening to Cardin Ellis warn me against swinging. Like, Cardin, I don't need you to tell me not to be a swinger, okay? Thanks for the advice.
Wow. All right, folks, I am just going to move on to the last call of the night. And if you make any shorts out of that last clip, please let us know.
God will get you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to sue you for copyright.
God will punish you for that, Walter.
You share it with us and let us release it. Do the cut so we know exactly where the funny spot is. And
I think that was Michelle Stone on a 3-day bender.
Oh my goodness. All right. So this one we'll see where this one goes. This is Poppy, I believe. Poppy, are you
still
there?
Celebrating Thanksgiving. God bless her.
Hello.
Hello, Poppy. How are you?
I'm well. What a crazy night.
It is,
Wow.
really.
I'm interested to see what you have to say to see if
Poppy.
it gets better or worse.
Well, I don't think I can top that one.
Poppy, that's my favorite flower.
I dare you.
It's what my grandchildren call me.
Oh, that's nice.
Years ago, before I retired, I worked as an LPC, and I was working a crisis hotline one night, and an LPS friend of mine called me about some abuse that was occurring from her husband toward her. And I did what I needed to do at work, but I went to church and I talked to my priesthood leader about this. And he said to me, "Oh, I know that guy. He could never do anything like that." And the church never followed through with this priesthood leader. He was an elder, I think, might have been a high priest, but nothing was ever done to him.
Can I tell you something? I've been a criminal defense attorney for a long time and a prosecutor, all totaled 35 years now. The ones who would never do it are always the ones who do it.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that. This guy had about 15 children, I think.
Yeah,
It was
pretty much
crazy.
anybody would do it.
There
There are
was
very few people who would never do it under extreme circumstances.
Yeah.
But you know something? That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous to say, oh, well, he wouldn't do it. What the hell does that mean? It means you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You want to look the other way and not get involved.
I know him. He's a good man. He would never do anything like that.
Well, he
There was
just
a-
did,
The
Al.
wife called, and of course, it was anonymous on a hotline, but I knew who she was by what she was telling me. And I don't think she knew who I was.
Poppy, when did this
But
happen?
I went,
Is this recent?
probably, no, it wasn't recent. It was probably 20 years ago.
So, I mean, what happened? Did you approach her and say, it was actually me and I knew it was you?
No, because it's it's anonymous and confidential. And
Yes.
I think,
But you went to the bishop.
I don't know. A member of the bishopric, yes. I think he was a counselor.
and told him and hoped he would do something.
Yes.
Mm.
And I was very naive, and I thought he would take care of it, and he would do what he was supposed to do, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And nothing. The guy continued to do his duty at church and pass the sacrament and so forth.
Yeah. The reasons for why things go. Don't say that. Please go ahead.
Not pass the sacrament. I don't. But do the priesthood things in church. Supervise the kids who pass the sacrament.
Yeah. Yeah, this thing doesn't seem to do a very good job, even with the general rules and how it makes decisions on the day-to-day. It doesn't seem to do a very good job of looking out for like the betterment of the community. Like certain people get privilege and get a free pass, even if they're at risk or causing harm to the people they're around.
Right.
Yeah. RFM, your thoughts? Anything?
I love.
Yeah, Poppy, when she called it in, did you send the cops out?
I reported it at work, and they did the protocol through work.
Okay, I guess that's about all you could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and back 20 years ago, things were different too.
Yeah, they were. All right.
Yeah,
I like your
Poppy.
show. I
Yeah.
really enjoy it. I have freed myself from the Mormon church, and my family thinks I'm insane, but I'm happy, and I finally know what peace feels like.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful to go from so many different experiences, but to have this huge weight lifted off your shoulder, this weight that's been built incrementally on you of all the guilt, of all the things that you're supposed to do and that you can't do and you don't do because you can't do it all. And it becomes hopeless and you despair. And then you finally find out that none of that mattered and none of that was real. And now all of a sudden the weight is gone and you feel like you're defying gravity.
Oh, it's wonderful. But I see my children, I have 5 children, and some of them are still active in the church. And it breaks my heart to see them paying their tithing and going to the temple, and they refuse to talk to me about the church at all because they know I'm going to say something they don't like to hear. Yeah. And the other day, one of my daughters said, well, you find what you look for, Mom. It's the same. If you're going to vote for a president, you find what you look for in the candidates. In the church, it's the same way. If you want to find good stuff about the church, you'll find good stuff. If you want to find bad stuff, you'll find bad stuff.
Yeah.
Except, so let's just not talk about it at all.
Yeah. Except the bad stuff demonstrates that it doesn't logically hold up. It's not just like, oh, like that guy said a bad word or that guy did something silly. It's that the things that actually happened hurt the truth claims of the church.
It's so funny because this whole good stuff, bad stuff has an element of truth in it, but it's caused by the fact that the church has presented this one-sided, whitewashed version of church history, which is all it presents, and we know that it hides all the rest and slants the other third in order to present this history, right? So that's the side that if you want to find the good, that's where you go to, is the church publications, because they'll give you the same 1 inch deep, a mile wide, good picture of church history that they always do. No problems in it, nothing at all. Everything's miraculous and consistent from beginning to end. But it's when you go to another source that is not a church source. It doesn't even have to be an anti-source. It can just be a person who's a professor of history and writing a book about it, who doesn't have that Mormon slant and that desire and that impulse to present only the good stuff that he learned or she learned from the church, right? And then that is something that you shouldn't be reading because that will cause problems too. So that's really, I think, what's behind this idea. If you look for good stuff, you'll find it, which means if you read only church literature, then you will know only what's in church literature. And if you want to know more about the subject, if you want to find out the history and what the church isn't telling you, and a lot of times it's for good reason, then you have to go to non-church books. You find it out. That's the bad stuff. That's reality. That's the truth.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because when I was working in the temple as a calling or volunteer or whatever, and it was when I was working in the temple that I got a testimony that the church was not true.
You got a testimony in the temple that the church was not true?
Yeah, because
How
there
did
was
that
never
happen?
anything to do.
Can you trust that answer,
There was
RFM?
never anything.
Does that pass Elder Oak's test if you trust that answer?
If it is in the temple, it has to be true, no matter how surprising or counterintuitive it might be, or no matter what Elder Oaks has to say on the subject. But go ahead, tell me what Elder Oaks said, because I know what he said. You tell us.
Elder Oaks said that it comes from the wrong source if it's not matching up with what they said.
Yeah. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
you have your right to
Well,
get your own personal revelation, but if it doesn't line up with what we're telling you, it's bogus, it's crap. Do you hear me? Get out of here.
Except
That
we're in a period of unlearning, though, right?
Well, according to Ben Spackman.
Yeah.
But I think the unlearning part is synonymous with getting all of those provable things and disprovable items off the table.
Yeah.
That's the relearning.
Make
We've
it
got to relearn that we can't have our targets out there, because if we have our targets out in the field, then the critics can hit them and blow us up. We got to get the targets off the field. That's how we're going to win. We're
Make
going
it a
to win
matter-
by running the other way.
Yep. Make it a matter of faith on every issue.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Non-falsifiable.
Yeah. Thank you, Poppy. Thank you for the call. Please. Sorry.
There were many times I had nothing to do in the temple because it was always empty. So they encouraged us to study that material that's not ever supposed to leave the temple. And it was while I was studying that holy material, I said, this is absolutely ludicrous. And I got a wonderful testimony that the church was not true. And it's all, it's been great ever since.
Okay, Poppy, when you're talking about this holy material that you have to keep in the temple, it sounds amazing, but I expect the reality is it's the script of the endowment or something. What is this you're talking about?
That's part of it, yeah, because, you have to memorize all that stuff.
Right? What else is there
Right.
in this holy stuff that can't leave the temple that you were pondering one day when you received that testimony that the church is not true?
Oh, just different things that you had to check out. And you had to write your name like in the old-fashioned library. You had to check it out and write your name down. And somebody had to supervise you signing your name. And then you went and studied this.
As a worker, you get to take it home to remember all of that so that you can come back and be able to do it. There's not enough time in the temple to learn it all. So
no, you can't take it home. You have to do it there.
Gotcha.
Can't leave the temple. It's too sacred. What specifically, do you remember what it was that you were reading? Was it maybe one of Lucifer's lines or something like that when it clicked for you?
Might have been.
I am doing that which has been done in other worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when
I think
Lucifer
maybe
says
he was
that, he should
there.
be in an astronaut suit. You're very kind.
I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for talking to me, and you guys have a great night.
Great.
Poppy, thank you for calling. Thanks so much. It's a delight.
RFM, when you go into places that are safe to ask questions, so the temple claims to be a place that you shouldn't talk about things outside the temple, but you should be permitted to reach out to the temple presidency to talk with someone there and to ask them questions about this, about how these things, why they work.
Mm-hmm.
Name another place you go into that's supposed to be safe to ask questions, where you're also sort of shushed and told to talk in hushed tones.
I don't know. Is this a library?
My point is that, what's that? A library?
Was it a library?
Yeah, a library does that.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, well, that's sort of the counter side of the coin, is that there are places that are really healthy that operate that way. And then there are places where questions they're not really safe. you're not really, you're sort of intended to sort of figure some of that out. Like nobody goes in and bothers the temple presidency every time.
No, heck no.
No one
way.
bothers the temple presidency. Once
I
every
doubt it.
great while.
It would never occur to me
Yeah.
that was even an option. You're not
Because
even supposed to talk about this stuff or try and reason it out anywhere except in the temple, and they make sure that you're processed through there so fast you don't have time to talk about anything.
Yeah.
It's in the celestial room where you're supposed to be very quiet, and you're not really supposed to talk about stuff because that's the only place that you have to talk about the mysteries of God, and we won't have any mysteries of God talked about in the temple. Yeah,
That's it.
that was a chiasmus. I swear to you, I'm true.
Gosh, look at that. On the spot too. You didn't even need to kick the project down the street another year and go, you know what, I'll see you next September.
No, it just happens.
No, you just
It's
did
a product of dictation.
I'm proud of you. Yeah. If it was really safe to ask questions, people would be asking questions.
Oh, right. And I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's easy for me to forget because it's been a while now, at least 10 years. But one of the joys of disengaging to whatever degree, partial or complete, from Mormonism is all of a sudden you have the freedom to talk about shit you can't talk about in Mormonism. You have freedom to ask questions that you can't ask in Mormonism. Because if you do, everybody will turn and give you the stink eye. So you can slink down in your pew and wait for the meeting to be over so you can crawl out. That's what it's like asking questions in Mormonism. Not approved.
You are even told before the class sort of starts, you're told these are the 5 or so approved answers for every question we'll ask today. Do you remember there was a moment where it was like, do your family history work, say your prayers. Like it's the answer to everything. They don't really want open-ended questions where you talk things out.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And all the questions in the, the proposed questions for the teachers and the teachers' manuals in the various classes are all leading questions. They're all have the conclusion built into the question so that nobody gets an idea that any answer other than the orthodox and prescribed answer will suffice.
And when two things get really close and one of them they need to teach and the other one they don't want to, then they put a message at the beginning that says, don't talk about this thing, no matter what you do. The first rule of whatever the Fight Club is, we don't talk about Fight Club. Yeah. So notice the game that gets played.
Mosiah asks, RFM, did you get the missionary meeting in the Salt Lake City Temple where you can ask any questions? No, but I did get a meeting in the Provo Temple with President, I think it was Theodore Tuttle? I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was Theodore Tuttle. Yeah?
This is your one moment to ask things and you're young and you don't even know what to ask.
Yeah, you got no clue.
Yeah, because
you've just gone through the endowment and you're going, what the hell just happened to me?
Yeah.
Because this church all of a sudden is very different on the inside of a temple than it is on the outside of a temple.
Yeah.
So certainly thrilling, I guess, invigorating, somewhat frightening. But we get to ask the questions of the man in the white suit, President Tuttle. I had no questions because I couldn't. Yeah, I'm still reeling. But somebody talked about, I don't know, holding hands. This is what I remember. Theodore Tuttle up there, he takes Sister Potts. I remember her name. There was one sister, a companionship in our little district for Japan. Sister Potts and Sister Nielsen. Yeah, from Mesa, Arizona. Famous for saying or teaching me the expression, just the expression, by the way, my body's a temple and you've got your recommend. So just the expression. She was one a racy Mormon girl from Mesa, Arizona is what Sister Nielsen was. She was a hoot. And but Sister Potts was her very she was shy, very shy and introverted. It was quite the match between the two, right? But you have to know Sister Potts in order to appreciate the fact that it's Sister Potts that President Tuttle calls up in front of our district, right? And he's talking about the handshakes, right? Because everybody wonders what the heck's going on with the handshakes. What you have to learn handshakes, and that's what gets you into heaven.
Yeah.
God knows the counter handshake, and so that's how he knows if you're good to go. It seems very strange. And even missionaries at the age of 19, which we were at the time, had some thoughts about it. So this was his explanation for it, is he calls up Sister Potts in front of everybody, and then he holds her hand. He holds her hand like this, right? And, she's going, poor Sister Potts in front of her, with this grown man, 60-something years old, holding her hand in front of everybody. And he says in front of everybody, now, this has a certain kind of feeling when you hold hands, right? But when you take those hands and you go like this, then it has a completely different feeling. And poor Sister Potts was turning 7 shades of crimson.
That feels yucky to me. That's an interaction that feels not consensual.
Well, it was perhaps ill-advised. All I can say is that he's trying to make the point that it's not so much the handshake, it's the feeling that goes with it. And the feeling can change based on, I don't know, whether I'm interlacing my fingers with a 19, she would have had to be 21 at the time, a 21-year-old sister missionary.
Yeah. It is a feeling. I know gross when I feel it. Like, it is a feeling.
But once again, he's the leader. He's the temple president, and nobody can think ill of it or think that it's untoward or wrong or in any way not perfectly fine for him to do that.
Yeah.
Because Mormonism.
Yeah. I want to add one thing to that, and then I want to get your closing remarks for the night. We're at 9:42. But this church loves to be seen in front of a camera, allowing kids and maybe every once in a while young adults to ask it questions in a very controlled environment.
Oh, like the face-to-face, the youth devotionals. Yeah.
But notice that never wants to sit down with 55-year-olds and ask them questions.
No, that's
because
true.
55-year-olds who want to ask the right questions would figure out how to be in that space with that person in that moment, and they would be forced to cut the question out or to come up with some new workaround because they're not going to like some of those questions that 55-year-olds are asking. And so if everybody would see the gig if you just did it. So you have to come up with an explanation that is a misdirection. And so you tell everyone how important the youth are. That's where you focus your time and your energy. And we all sort of buy that. But we never sort of understand that we never sit down with the 55-year-olds. They don't ever get to, in a only moderately controlled environment, get to ask whatever the hell is on their mind. Because you'd get a lot of different questions, even if that person carried a prompt into the room or was handed one. They would still ask their question because it's their moment. And you damn thing, you burned me. I won't let this moment pass by. And this thing's smart enough to know you never, ever let the 55-year-olds ask questions in environments where you're going to record it and people are going to be able to say what happened and what got cut out. Yeah.
I think they'd be heavy on security screening, trying to weed out people like you.
What's that?
They'd be trying to screen out people like you from being in.
Oh, no. They don't want, again, I'm on the outside now. They wouldn't even let me in. But there are people on the rolls who, they look the part, but they've got really good questions they'd like to ask.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's an amazing thing that we have 15 prophets on the earth today, and we can't get a hold of any of them.
No, they're nowhere to be found. They speak to you in a completely controlled environment once every 6 months. And they don't really ever address you in anything that's only moderately controlled.
Yeah, they have to be sort of in this vacuum packed seal, because if they're exposed to oxygen, they'll crumble to dust.
Yeah, unless it's the kids. And the kids, they'll lighten up just a little bit. They pretty much have, with shame and pressure, manipulated them into coming up with certain kinds of questions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. I'll tell you this great way of picking a spectator from the audience, okay?
Yeah.
So here's what you do. You take all these pieces of paper, right? They're blank pieces of paper. You're a magician. You're on a stage. You're in front of an audience. See if this has any relationship to what you were talking about. If not, I assume full responsibility. And you take all blank, wad them up, put them in this hat. And then you take one and you put a big black X on it and wad that up. It goes in the hat as well. Then you tell everybody, okay, we're going to pick a audience member, complete random. I'm going to turn my back on the audience. I'm going to throw, excuse me, there goes the microphone, the hat with all the things. They go out over the audience, right? And everybody reaches up and grabs them. Okay. And one of them comes up with the one that has the X on it.
Yeah.
And then comes up on the stage, and usually an attractive young woman, because audiences dig that better. And then you're off and running, because what you did was you just picked this person. It looks completely free of any contrivance.
Yeah.
Except what you do is when you take this one and put it on it and put it in the hat.
Yeah.
You palm it and take it out of the hat. And you've got one young lady in the audience who has the matching piece of paper with the black X on it.
It's all been orchestrated.
Oh yeah, when everybody's jumping up for the nobody's going to see somebody picking it out of
the
the
magic trick, isn't it?
Yes.
Getting people to believe bullshit is a magic trick.
Everything's a magic trick, and I think Joseph Smith understood that well.
Yeah. And maybe a guy by the name of Lumen Walters before him. Folks, RFM, any last thoughts from you? What a great, I think this was a fun night. Great phone calls. Carrie Sweet, I just want to say again, thank you for the effort you went through to get on the show the way that was going to be great for the show. And I just note to your story, like, you know unhealthiness when you see it. And so thank you for sharing a personal story from your world that we could sort of talk about as well.
Absolutely, Carrie. See what Darren says? RFM saying we can't get a hold of prophets. Like the reincarnation of Joseph Smith didn't just call the show 15 minutes ago.
It happened here, folks. This is the kind of, by the way, this is the kind of stuff that I think drives the show, is people hear things that they're just not going to hear somewhere else. And you want to hear that kind of shit live, don't you?
Don't you? And now Joseph Smith didn't get shot in Carthage. He got shot in Chicago. He was one of Al Capone's gang.
Here I am setting traps so they can get things wrong over and over again. Meanwhile, the first one, they did it themselves.
Yeah, they already gave it away. You know, getting shot can alter your memory. It's not easy to remember exactly those things.
I sort of expected she was only going to remember so much. You know,
especially when you're like 2 or 3 reincarnations down the road.
Not going to get too, she's not going to get too specific here. Although Chicago, she got a little too close.
It's the right state. When you go to heaven, you know, and you look down, everything looks a lot closer together.
Oh boy, throw a dart, it pretty much is almost Chicago. All right, RFM, it's been a fun night.
It has, and thank you so much for joining me, Bill. Thank you, everybody out there in Mormonism After Dark land, for joining us for this wonderful, swinging, hip, groovy kind of night. On Friday night, here on December 6, 2024, Mormonism After Dark. Please join us next week, Friday, at 8 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, for another episode of Mormonism After Dark.
Good night, everybody.